Hello and welcome to the Uninformed College Football Rants podcast. I'm your host, Jack. This is my co-host, Keith, and we have a guest.
Georgia superfan Bobby.
Yup. We will begin with my slightly biased personal top 10. So, number 1, Tennessee. Number 2, Michigan. 3, Georgia. 4, Ohio State. 5, TCU. 6, Clemson. 7, Alabama. 8, USC. 9, Kansas State. 10, Oregon. Runner-ups, 11, Ole Miss, and 12, Illinois. What do you think?
It's not too bad. I think a lot of people have Tennessee that high. Obviously, the college football guys did too. We'll see if they're still that high after this weekend, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
The rest, you had Michigan at 2?
Yeah,
he acknowledged bias. So, we overweight USC, Texas, Michigan.
Okay. Got it. I mean, we'll see. There's so many of these schools that every year they're there until right about now, and then they kind of fall apart. Michigan's
right.
Kind of, but you got to give them credit until they fall apart, right?
Mm-hmm. So.
And by the way, I should say thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks for coming, Bobby.
Yeah. So, we'll start with the obvious. Tennessee, Georgia. What are your pregame thoughts?
Well, I should say I'm biased here too. I went to Georgia for undergrad and for law school, so spent a lot of good time in Athens and headed down there tomorrow actually to watch the game. First game I'll have made it to all year. And I still like our chances. We're still the big dog. We have stepped up this season when we've needed to. People forget the way we kind of wiped the floor with Oregon to open the season. And
we haven't forgotten that. We enjoyed that.
Okay.
Nope.
All right. Well, glad that somebody remembers. But Tennessee, big win over Alabama. Give them a lot of credit. That was at home. I think if this game was in Knoxville, I'd be worried. But feel pretty good about it being in Athens. That place is going to be rocking. 3:30, kind of going into the night. I like our chances.
And notwithstanding the losses to the NFL, the defense remains stacked, right?
Yeah, it's definitely not what it was, but it's been there. And Stetson Bennett still kind of getting it done on the offensive side. He's sort of more moxie than talent. I doubt he'll be playing much on Sundays, but no, it's a fun team to watch. They still kind of step up. The secondary, I think, for Georgia is where I'd be a little bit worried against Tennessee. They can obviously throw the ball, and the secondary, I think, is going to hurt us. Tennessee's going to put up some points. It's kind of, can we put up enough to overcome that?
Yeah, so my thoughts on the game are, last year they won the national championship. They were much better than every other team last year. Just like, I watched that Michigan game in the semifinal and they killed them. Then they beat Alabama, who had beat them by, I think, 17 in the SEC championship. And they smack Oregon in the season opener, but then the reason that they're not number 1 in my rankings is they almost lost to Missouri in that one game. And then there's Tennessee, too. They just beat Alabama, so, I think that they should be placed up there.
Although, I think, Alabama wasn't really itself.
No.
And guys, just real quick, Lucas says he's having some technical difficulties. He says the link's not working.
Okay. Anyways.
I don't know what to do about that. We're just going to keep moving.
Let's do it.
Okay, so now on to our next topic. The SEC Championship. What's going to happen there?
You could go ahead. Tell me your views.
So, it's still gonna be Alabama in the West, but it's really a question of who wins this Tennessee-Georgia game. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I think the only other way to get in, there's not very many SEC games left. You'd have to kind of lose 2 if you win this one, and that just seems hard to imagine.
Is Sanford Stadium like a very fiercely intimidating venue for a visitor?
It's not going to be quiet. It's not the biggest stadium in the SEC or the country. It's like about 93,000, and one of the end zones is kind of open, which makes for a really cool effect when you're walking through campus because you can literally just look right into the stadium, which is pretty special while you're going to the bookstore or something. But that also, I think, lets a little bit of sound out the true bowls. But it's not a quiet place to be. The folks at Georgia are pretty good at tailgating, and that helps increase the volume a little bit too, I think. And yeah, they'll get in there and make some noise. Hooker, the quarterback over there at Tennessee, is not going to have a quiet day to draw up plays, that's for sure.
It's like the whiteout or Michigan Stadium. What's the Ohio Stadium where they're probably they're gonna get false start penalties. It's gonna be a mess for Tennessee, I think.
Yeah, no, I think you're definitely right. I think there will be some of those the 12th man pitching in, the crowd making so much noise that there's a false start. And I want to say Lucas maybe just joined us.
Okay.
I did. How are you?
Hey, Lucas. Welcome.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you. Sorry for being a little late here.
No. Okay, so you actually arrived at the perfect time. We set forth various theories concerning Georgia's concerning dominance and how intimidating a venue Sanford Stadium is.
What are your thoughts on the Tennessee-Georgia game?
What's the theory that Tennessee's explosiveness cannot be contained?
Well, I'll tell you this. Our Eric Ainge, who is a historic Tennessee quarterback, today said on the news that he was never scared about going into Georgia because it's not as loud. I think they have 80,000 people. We're used to playing in front of 106,000 people, so I don't think we're scared by noise.
Fireworks! Fireworks!
Lucas, 93,000. Come on.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Well, but I'll tell you this. One of the things, I think the whole key to the game, and Bobby is right, you won't hear me say that again, is that it comes down to how explosive our offense could be. I think the last team that scored more than 30 points on Georgia in Georgia was Tennessee in 2016. It hasn't happened since. I think if we score more than 35 points, the Georgia offense can't keep up with us, but it's a big if.
What about the SEC championship? What's your take there? My take is Alabama's going to win the West, but it's going to come down to this game, Tennessee-Georgia.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think this is the SEC championship. I think these are the two best teams in the SEC. And we haven't seen the East rise up like this in a while. So I think the winner of this has a spot locked in the college football playoff. So it should be fun. And one more thing about the points. We have
What do you think of, that was not a characteristic Alabama performance, right? That loss?
No.
I don't think we should assume that they're, wobbly. I think they're going to be, you still have the SEC's championship will still be the SEC championship.
I think there's this scenario where, and I don't know the math plays out, and I know everyone who doesn't like the SEC is going to hate to hear this, but there's a scenario where Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama could all three be in the college football playoff. So I think the Ohio State fans won't like to hear that.
Well, that's on to our next topic. What about the CFP? I think that there's going to be a Big Ten team, which I think is either going to be Ohio State or Michigan in there. But could there be 3 SEC teams?
I just can't imagine they let that happen. I've seen the same things, Lucas. It's fun to dream about. I feel like college football would melt down.
It's not fair, though, because an undefeated, an Oregon or a Clemson is not as good as that third SEC team, right?
Or wait, I think that a TCU could squeeze in there actually.
Yeah, they have another high-powered offense. So, yeah, I think you're right. But just the competition I don't think is as high at the level for TCU. That's what hurts TCU.
I think it's going to be 2 SEC teams. I think it's going to be
the Big Ten winner.
Yeah, the Big Ten winner and TCU, honestly.
And
or Clemson.
Team to be determined.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask. I think you know that I'm pretty biased as to who I think is going to win on Saturday, and I think Bobby is pretty biased on who he thinks is going to win on Saturday. What is a unbiased look at the game?
Well, that's in our pick segment later. I'll reveal my big pick. What do you think?
We'll do picks later.
Yeah, picks is later. Now, the next question brings us to Alabama. Can they save their season?
You know, I think Alabama always kind of loses to a middling team, SEC team, like a Texas A&M or somebody like that. I feel like Arkansas gave them a tough game a couple of years ago. So, like, them losing to Tennessee middle of the season is pretty consistent with all that. I think that they'll come roaring back.
Yeah.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree. Nick Saban teams don't usually have 17 penalties a game. I think that was one of the main reasons why Tennessee was able to squeak that one out. But I think you'll have the guys ready to play. And I think LSU at night is a tough place to play, but if Tennessee can hang 40 on them, I think Alabama's going to be able to be okay.
So, Lucas, you're like a long suffering Tennessee fan. Was that game like the greatest day of your sports fan life?
So I'll tell you, my freshman year at the University of Tennessee was with head coach Lane Kiffin. I went down there and I burned couches when he quit middle of the way. I suffered through Butch Jones. I got lied to about Dooley, which we had some sad news with his father passing, and then I had to pretend to be a Pruitt guy. And when they announced that this Heupel guy that no one had ever heard of was a new head coach, I was not happy. But I think I've never been so wrong, and I've never been so happy to be wrong about Heupel. And yeah, it was pretty high up there.
Jack complains about fans storming the field for trivial mid-major victories. I feel this was absolutely the perfect time
I agree with
to storm the field and tear the goalposts down.
I agree with that one, Alabama, Tennessee, but I hate it when, like, number 19th ranked UCF beats, like, number 8th ranked, like, Oklahoma and tears down the goalposts. Like,
so
really?
What are our picks?
No, wait, one more thing. The last issue is LSU. What about them?
Yeah.
You know,
You go for it, Lucas.
I was very scared about LSU when we played them earlier in the season. I think Tiger Stadium's a tough place to play at night. You give those Louisianans a little tailgating time, and they can get after it. I just don't think they're quite ready. They're quite there. For the new head coach, they're going to expect a lot of him. He's turned that program in the right direction, but in maybe year 2 or year 3, we'll see a big leap. I think now they're just in the making noise stage.
Yeah, so, okay, we'll just say that Brian Kelly doesn't have the best track record against Nick Saban. At Notre Dame, I think he took 2 or more 20-point or more losses against Nick Saban in Alabama. So, I don't think it's going to be close at all.
All right.
Now on to picks.
What's your pick for Georgia, Tennessee?
I think it's going to be close, but I'm going to say Tennessee 42-35.
So I want to be a weasel and say it's just too soon to tell and anything could happen, but I just feel like Georgia's at home and they're playing with a chip on their shoulder. So I picked Georgia by like 34-33 or something like that.
What about you two?
They picked their respective teams.
Oh, right.
What's the score going to be, Lucas?
Yeah, I think so. if Tennessee is going to win, it's going to have to be 45-28. That's my final answer.
Yeah. It's not impossible to imagine that happening if we just can't get it going. Your defense isn't bad either. I think it's got to be a little lower scoring for Georgia to win, but not much. We'll say Georgia 38, Tennessee 31.
Okay, what about Alabama LSU? I think that this one...
Alabama.
I'm going to say Alabama 42-14.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I give them a little. I'm going to say Alabama 34-17. I'll give them an extra field goal.
Yes, one of those sounds pretty good. Alabama 42-17. I'll split the difference.
I agree.
Yeah, that is it for this week. We will be back next week. That is it.